I got the cash in the bag, stadium packed. Born a rock star in this life, gonna live it up on the attack, baby.
Hi everybody, welcome back to Pyrography for beginners and beyond. Today I wanted to have a little look and talk about layering. Now, many new pyrographers may not have heard of this term of layering, and I just wanted to give you a little brief oversight of what layering is when we're doing a pyrography work. When we're trying to capture realism with, say, we've got a fox here that I'm working on, we can't just put the coat of fur down in one sort of go. We need to layer it up to we need to add volume, don't we, and all the depth and bulk, as if there is actually something tangible on the piece of canvas. So what we use is a technique called layering, and all it is basically having your pen on, say, a medium heat setting. I'm using birch ply, and I've got my heat setting at just under 3 on the Optima extra small space shader. And what I'm looking to do is layer up a base coat of this fox's fur, going in the directions that the fur would travel in, and that will then give you the shape and all the depth and detail to the fox. This is a laborious part of pyrography, but it's one, if you can master it, this is when you can make truly amazing pieces of pyrography. I mean, I'm still, I'd say, an intermediate level pyrographer. I'm not up there with the masters by any means, but I keep practicing and keep trying, and eventually I will reach the level I want to get to. So anyway, with layering, all we do is we think about, say, a fox's fur on its nose. They're not going to be really long strands like the eyelashes, are they? They're going to be small bits of fur that are fine. So what we do is we just keep building a layer and flicking the pen, and this pen is on a slightly higher heat because I've been working around the eye area, and this has been layered up quite a bit to try and start giving that depth that the eye lifts up. So it's a technique you do need to try and master or become proficient at with your pyrography. But this is a new term for you maybe, which is layering. It does take many hours, I won't lie to you, depending on what level of quality of art you want to produce will dictate how much time you spend layering. I'm quite lucky that I have a lot of patience, and I will just sit for hours and hours and just keep layering away, searching for the perfect, or what I deem to be the perfect shade. Let's take for example on this far eye, going off into the distance, we know that his muzzle is coming up, but then there is an eye round here whose fur is travelling off in this direction. So we can add layering here to show the fur going off this way. And then this way you get into all your different shades and your different tones. The darker shades will give you a more deeper look, whereas the lighter shades will make it look like it's higher. I'm just working off a reference picture and just basically trying to use my mind as to how I think I would see this fox's fur. I do use like a template to start with, to get the eyes and the nose and everything and the mouth and the ears in the right place. But then I'm going to show you my reference picture, which is this. So there's not the greatest amount of detail. There is quite a bit of detail there, but not the massivest amount. So I thought I would challenge myself to something a bit more difficult, and I've always wanted to wood burn a fox, and so I've picked a ridiculously hard one. And we will just keep layering away until we make this fox look like it's three-dimensional, or hopefully that is the end goal. And then let's try and layer up this muzzle. It can move quite quickly because we're just adding layer upon layer, and over time it will build up enough that you will get the volume, and more depth to the piece. But we'll just spend 5 minutes and just see how far we can get with this muzzle, because the muzzle is very light. As the light's hitting the front of it, the nose, and we know all this fur is just going straight up his long snout, nose, whatever you want to call it. I'm just using really the tip of the pen. And to start with, it won't look like you're actually doing much. But adding all this base layer is adding more and more volume and depth to your work. Birch ply is a wonderful wood for like sort of soaking up heat, and the amount of detail it will let you add to the wood is superb. That's why I love using birch ply. For new pyrographers out there who are in the UK, there is a great birch ply stockist at oakcrafts.co.uk, and they sell these seconds bundles, which they guarantee one side is perfect and the other side maybe have some defects, but you only want to use one side of the wood anyway, so you know it's a great offer. There's a few whiskers here. We want to try and capture, so I move the pen slower so I get a darker burn stroke. As I've spoke in the past, the faster you move the pen and you keep it down on the wood, the lower the heat. Now if I was to lift this pen off for any significant amount of time and put it back down, I would get a very dark stroke, which you don't want at this stage. At the moment, all I want to do is put the base down, and then I will add my top coat of different tonal values and moving the fur in different directions further on in the piece. You can sort of get a feel as well for where the nose, like long snout bit, will finish from the nostril. Really, it's going to finish somewhere down this sort of line, isn't it? You know, and then start tailing off more towards the sides. This is where patience comes into pyrography. And I've got a good friend, Lizzie, who's new to pyrography. She's an absolutely amazing pastel portrait artist. Wow, her work is absolutely superb. And she's had a little go at pyrography and she's got into it. And she struggled at first with the patience side of things, of layering, where she knew already, obviously, with the pastels, you know, the layering required. And now she's sussed it where, you know, it takes a bit of patience to create pyrography. You're not going to create a stunning piece of pyrography in a day. Well, not in my world. Some people maybe are phenomenally gifted may be able to do that, but I wouldn't have a chance. There's a lot of white areas on this fox, and a bit later down the line I'll show you a few things what we do, because white isn't actually white. There are opportunities for shading. You might think, well, there's a white area here, here's all this white hair. You don't see any detail, but there's white hair there, so we just leave it like that. If you leave it like that, it just looks a bit weird, doesn't it? So there's things we have to do with that. White fur is actually easier to wood burn than dark fur, believe it or not. I know people say, oh, blooming heck, I've got a white dog to do, you know, when they've been doing brown dogs and black dogs, and actually white dogs and stuff is so much easier, because you're just looking for the shading underneath, like the clumps of hair, rather than spend the time having to wood burn, you know, a deep dark coat. I will find out if I do move around a lot with my pyrography. I think that was do with just switch areas every now and again, you know, and when we get bored of doing one area, just move to another, and it all helps you to see a better picture of the shape of the animal that you're doing. The last thing we want to do is it look flat on the wood. And when you do your layering strokes, move them in the direction of the fur. Don't just, you know, just layer them any old how. Make your flicks with the way the hair is going. If we think about it, say this fox in real life, he has got many layers of fur, hasn't he? I was only saying on a TikTok the other day, so it's weird, isn't it? There's foxes live amongst us in the towns and cities and everything, yet we never see them, do we? Through the day. There was one time I was telling a story on TikTok that my brother lived in a big like block of flats called Cantilever Gardens. And, you know, it had a parking area for all the massive block of flats. It wasn't like, you know, scummy flats, they were quite nice flats. And we got back to his house one afternoon, and there was this fox sat in the car park. It must have been rummaging through the bins, you know, looking for scraps of food in there. And it was the biggest fox you'd ever see. It was like the size of a medium-sized dog, like a small Alsatian. And he just sat there looking at us. He didn't run off, wasn't afraid of us or anything like that. And me and brother just stood there in awe of looking at this fox. The only one I've ever really seen properly in all my life. And we stood for a few minutes and watched him, and then he just walked off. Never saw the fox again. And this is a wood burn I'd always wanted to do, but I knew the amount of work that is required in trying to do a piece like this justice, that I'd left it off and off. And while I had a little bit of quiet time to myself, I thought I would make a go at it and have a go and see what I could come up with. It's going to be weeks and weeks of work. As I'm not naturally gifted at art, it takes me a bit longer than those who are gifted and those who've been to college and everything and understand more about art than I do. It takes me a little longer, which is fine because I said I've got the patience. That's all we need is patience and passion, and that'll take us where we need to be. So that is an introduction to layering. When you're doing your dogs and your cats and you want them to look like they're three-dimensional and there's an actual real looking dog or cat looking back at you, then this is what you're going to need to do, is layer up the fur. Okay, so there's an introduction to it. Give it a try on maybe a smaller, give it a try on like a small square and see what results you can come up with. That's all I did when, and all I still do with my pyrography, is just practice and experiment. Sometimes you'll get things horribly wrong, and other times you might just come up with something truly special. And just give it a go. We all have the ability to do fine art. It's just whether we've got the patience and the passion to be able to put into, getting there. We're not going to get there overnight, or we're not going to just pick up a pyrography pen for the first time, well, most of us, and just boom, there you go, realistic looking animal looking back at you. It's not going to happen. But we'll revisit this fox further down the line after I've done much more layering over the coming days, and we'll see how it looks as the layering progresses. Okay, so happy wood burning, everybody. I hope you're all enjoying the pyrography group. If you're a member of Pyrography for Beginners and Beyond by Flames Pyro Art, we have a wonderful community of pyrography artists. We set monthly little competitions and themes to help you with inspiration. And we give out rosettes and certificates for the winners, just for a nice little touch, just to for people to hang up and say I'm an award-winning pyrographer. So we have a good little group in there. We have no trolls or idiots or anyone saying anything nasty about anybody's work. Everybody was new at one time, so nobody in the group would ever scoff or laugh at anybody's work. You know, we all have to start off at exactly the same place. So if you want to head over to that Facebook group, just request to become a member, answer the few questions that we've left up. If you answer them questions and agree to the rules of the group, we will let you in. Okay, take care for now, guys. Have a great day, and I'll see you further down the road with Mr. Fox. Okay, take care for now, guys. Thank you for watching. Bye.